watching the #1 podcast in the YouTube wrestling community, and I'm your host, Jean-Paul Leek, and this is Rope Break. Family, here we are Tuesday morning again, so you know what that means, another edition of Monday Night Raw. And this was actually a pretty, I almost want to say good episode of Monday Night Raw. Again, if you take it to 2 hours and you trim the fat, get rid of the bullshit nobody wants to see, this would have been a pretty all-right show. We saw a lot of development, a lot of teasing before the draft. Obviously, we get the first episode of the draft this Friday, and then it concludes a week from yesterday out on the next Monday Night Raw. So it's definitely exciting. I did think WWE was an autopilot, but they had to prove me wrong and, make some interesting storylines here. So it's actually something good to look forward to. But, before you check out this review, make sure you check out all our content from last week. We always say it, we never sleep, and it's true, because we have, of course, the Victory Road from Impact. We have NXT TakeOver 31. One has a great interview with Felipe Jr. Please check that out. Really good stuff there. And, of course, we have each, weekly show like we always do. But speaking of weekly shows, Monday Night Raw, let's get into this thing. And, of course, it started out with probably the best storyline, going on right now in, I would say, all of WWE, and that's Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. So Orton's backstage, and he's pretty much, explaining that, yeah, I'm not WWE champ. I was pretty much put in that ambulance. I was driven away. I don't remember much of that ambulance, ride, because I was out, I was done. But the one thing I do remember is the match, and I remember how all the legends, he runs through the whole scenario: Big Show choke slam, Christian attack, Shawn Michaels super kick, blah blah blah. He runs through the whole thing, and he's pretty much, I remember all that. And then I remember seeing you and all the legends, yakking it up in the ring, having a good time. I remember seeing them backstage, and he's like, I remember all this, and it really like awoken like the legend killer. Like I had to prove that, I am the legend killer once again. And, he explains when he went in there and he turned off the lights, the Big Show came at him first and was swinging. He took him out. Then Christian, then Shawn Michaels, he was trying to fight, but he took him out, and Ric Flair was going for the door. He grabbed Rick, and at that point, Rick turned around and he knew it was done. And he pretty much says to Drew, like, you think this is over? You think this is a game? This is what happens when you keep crossing the legend killer. So, like, we're going to have one more match, and we got to settle this thing. Pretty much, calls out for Hell in a Cell. So we all knew that this is where the feud was going. Obviously, Hell in a Cell is a place it needs to go. This feud deserves it. It's one of the few, I would say probably this, we've been saying on the channel, this and Sasha and Bayley are really the only two feuds that deserve Hell in a Cell right now. I mean, if you really would have maybe changed the storyline for the Mysterio family and Seth Rollins, you maybe could have did that in Hell in a Cell, but they kind of, are cooling that off, and they're going down a different, but in my opinion, right path. But we'll get to that when we get to that segment. But this was really good. Obviously now we need to hear from the champion. We did find out that there is the 6-man tag, which will probably be the main event. We didn't know at the time. It ended up being the main event. So this was really good. But then, of course, as he's cutting this promo, finishing it up, boom, the back door flies open. Drew comes in. Drew's like, oh, you want to send me to hell, huh? And they start beating each other up and fighting. And, so it's good stuff. Like, this is definitely the best feud in all of WWE going on right now, I think, main roster-wise, definitely. And probably even NXT. NXT's been a little, not that good since Karrion and Keith Lee and all these guys left. They're finally kind of getting back on track. But now Finn Balor, broken jaw. So who the hell knows? So great opening segment, and then we go into a not-so-great match, and we get a 6-women tag with Zelina Vega, and she's with – who the heck is she with? Oh, yeah, that's right, the tag team nobody cares about, Lana and Natalya. And they're going against the, the babyface team of Asuka, and then Raw's newest additions, Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. So, I mean – you hear those names and you're like, well, how the hell could this have went? Well, it went exactly how you thought it was. The heels got their ass beat. They got dominated. Then Asuka, she had Lana in the ring towards the end of this thing. And Lana starts to make a little comeback, but nothing obviously Asuka can't handle. She gets back in the corner. Mandy Rose makes a blind tag. And then she, hits the pump knee or whatever she hits, her finisher now. And 1, 2, 3, and that was the end of it. So it's like, okay, you know, are they teasing this thing where it's like, oh, you know, Mandy Rose and Asuka, you know, it's like, okay, we won, we're legit, but like you made the blind tag, you're kind of stealing my thunder, like, because Mandy Rose is talking pretty confident and stuff. I didn't listen to Raw talks. I don't know if they furthered the storyline there or not, but I've been saying that I could easily see that being the next feud. So we'll see where they go. But to me, I think, you know, you got to turn Mandy Rose heel again, especially if you split her up with Otis and that storyline is just, you know, forgotten. And we're just supposed to be like, okay, yeah, you know, just forget about all that. Then I would say turn Mandy Rose heel again. But I mean, you know, it was okay. But then, of course, after the thing, women tag team champions come out, and they're supposed to have a match. They're having their match with the Riot Squad because they're now back. I still am unsure if it was COVID or what it was going on, or maybe it was just a legit injury. But they come out, so you know they're pissed off, and they pretty much just slam. You know, they go to grab Natalya, put her through the announce table, and then Lana's like, "No, remember what Miro said on AEW?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, that's right. Vince said we're supposed to put her through the table again." So they put Lana through the table for a third time, and it's like, okay, you know, you saw it once and you popped. You know, you saw it a second time and you're like, haha, that's for Miro. And then you see it again now. It's like, you know, I don't really care. You know, you almost feel bad for Lana. It's like, you know, because she is getting a little better in the ring. I won't be like, oh, Lana's the next super. No. But like you do see the improvements. Natalya is a good wrestler. And if she is actually learning wrestling from Natalya and not just, you know, how to do those videos with her sister, then I think, you know, she'll actually get a little bit better. But then we get another 24/7 championship, which, you know, again, that's the you know, people are like Jean Paul, like Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre. Really? Do you think we care about that? No, it's a 24/7 championship. But then you just see, you know, R-Truth, he's doing a fake mock draft. He's like, oh, Ninja number 1, Ninja number 2, Little Jimmy, you know, blah, 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 like R-Truth. He's just like putting all these names down, you know, like bullshit names. But then a custodian's behind him there with the mop, and you know, R-Truth thinks it's Randy Orton, but he slips on a puddle, and then it's Drew Gulak. He pins him 1, 2, 3. So don't worry, there's more though, guys. If that wasn't enough 24/7 championship action for you, there's more. But then we get a recap of Apollo Crews, Mustafa Ali, Ricochet, them beating the Hurt Business last week. And then we get backstage. MVP appears and he discusses the upcoming draft, you know, and he's talking to these 3 guys and he's like, hey, you get drafted to SmackDown, you get drafted to Raw, you know, but maybe you could get drafted by the Black and Gold. And I thought he meant NXT. I'm like, yeah, they would probably love that. But he meant the Hurt Business. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's still cool, but not as cool. But he pretty much said, like, you guys got to prove yourself tonight. This is the last night you can prove yourself. So tonight you can either look like chumps, get drafted by nobody, or get, you know, left behind in the dust, picked up last round, or you can look like, you know, legit guys and, you know, make a name for yourself. Because he said Apollo was on SmackDown, did bullshit, came to Raw, ended up becoming the United States champion. So then we go to the ring and we see Seth Rollins and Murphy, and they're going to be having a match with Dominic Mysterio and Humberto Carrillo. But, you know, that's, you know, not before there's some drama. And we go to commercial break, and then when we come back from that, we just see everything, you know, Mysterio family, Buddy Murphy, Aaliyah, like, hey, I hope you're okay, the Instagram DMs, you know, all that stuff. But then we actually hear from Murphy, and he, you know, Seth is like, hey, we have a match, you know, like, come on, like, you know, what do you have the mic for? You know, what's going on? And he's like, I have something I need to get off my chest. And he says that he's been Seth's ideal disciple for the last few months. And he said that if Seth wants him to continue being his disciple, he's going to need to apologize. And he's like, apologize? Like, to who? Blah, blah, blah. And he's going on. He's like, you need to apologize to Aaliyah. And then he's like, hey, you know, I went easy on her. You want me to apologize? I could have showed everybody what you were saying, and her, you know, family's idea of her being an innocent little girl, you know, I can completely shatter that. And, you know, he's like, remember that I am the Messiah and you're the disciple. So you listen to me. I made you. And then, you know, he's kind of just like, so, like, he's not really like, he's just, you know, you can tell Buddy Murphy's ready to explode, but not yet. You know, the steam is about to come out of the kettle, but not yet. And then, so then, Carrillo and Dominic, they come down and they attack both these guys, and then the match gets underway. And this was another match where it's not really so much about like in ring, like, oh my God, this was a classic or whatever. All 4 of these guys are legit. I feel like if you got for you guys to watch Dragon Ball Z, when they turn up the gravity when they're training, I feel like Humberto turns down the gravity. Like the dude floats like he's a kite, like he's in the air and he's just like a feather. But besides that, and my only complaint with that is then when he hits a move, it looks like it has no force behind it. So, I mean, but he can't help that the way he floats through the air. He's like a bird. But all four of these guys are legit, good stuff, especially. And Dominic, I'm sure he, if he watches Rope Break, legit. But to hear that all these people are like, oh, Dominic is, you're already forget that this guy's new, that, it's like, oh, yeah, he's like a greenhorn, you could call him. He's already legit. The only thing I think he really needs to improve, like I said, is the promo. But that comes for everybody. Unless you're like a John Cena, MJF, somebody like that, you're not going to have a legit 10 out of 10 promo right off the bat. But this match was pretty much just a story. It was the heels. They didn't really want to work together. Again, you could, like I said, Buddy Murphy was ready to explode, and he pretty much won this thing. He hit the knee strike too, copying Mandy Rose. I don't know. Buddy Murphy, I wish he would have hit the Murphy's Law, but he hit the knee strike on Humberto, I believe it was. Yeah, on Humberto, and then he gets, the 1, 2, 3. So he pretty much leaves then and is like, screw you, Seth. He doesn't even want to talk to him, acknowledge him, and he leaves. And then backstage we get Braun Strowman, and he's pissed off. He's like, I know Raw Underground's not going on, but I didn't come all the way here from SmackDown to kick somebody's ass. And I'm like, what do you mean come all the way here from SmackDown? You act like SmackDown is on the other side of the country. Like, oh, welcome to, SmackDown USA, and here's Raw USA over here. So I'm like, what do you mean you came all the way to Smack? But anyway, so he's pissed. He wants a match. Adam Pearce is like, I can't give you a match because you're not a Raw superstar, but maybe I can find you an exhibition. Braun Strowman has, his brains are the size of his balls from all the steroids. No, I'm just kidding, Braun. But, he's like, what's an exhibition? He's like, all right, dude, calm down. Don't worry. You'll get to kick somebody's ass. So, it's fine. So then we go to the ring for the Kevin Owens show. And then this is supposed to be the follow-up from last week. When Kevin Owens, it was last week, when he was on SmackDown with Alexa Bliss, and, pretty much we put over that segment big. Go back, listen to the SmackDown review if you haven't, but it was good. Alexa Bliss's acting was good. And this, feud with The Fiend and Kevin Owens, I think will be cool. Just because it's like, you're not going to have The Fiend in the title picture just to lose. Kevin Owens is a legit guy to have him feud with, so I'm excited for it. But then, so we get that coming up later. But then back, we get Seth Rollins. He confronts Buddy Murphy backstage. He tells Murphy that he needs to apologize to him. And then he says he has until 10 o'clock to do so, or there will be hell to pay. So, like I said, maybe, you could have did Seth and Dominic in Hell in a Cell, but maybe they're really going to push for this. We'll see. I hope there's at least a match at the pay-per-view inside the cell. I wouldn't be like, oh, this is bullshit. But if you try to live up to the prestige, which there's no prestige for Hell in a Cell anymore, let's be honest. But, it doesn't really fit the prestige just yet because they just started feuding. At this point, they didn't even start feuding yet. It's just reaching that point. But then, so back to the ring, now we get the KO show. So Kevin Owens, he comes out and he's like, hey, tonight's show's going to be a little different. And he pretty much puts over what Alexa Bliss says. He's like, when the Fiend touches you, you do feel changed. And he's like, I feel changed. I feel anger, agony, dread. And he's like, tonight's show, he's like, it won't be, the regular sit-down chat. We won't need these. He starts throwing the chairs out of the ring. He's ready to kick somebody's ass, fight anybody, KO. He's ready. So then we see a recap of everything that happened on Friday. And he says it's hard to find the words to explain the pain of the Fiend's mandible claw. And then Owens says that, he's like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, I keep having all these emo dark guys attacking me, Aleister Black, the Fiend, and he's like, what's going on? He's all like pissed off. And so then we get the Firefly Funhouse, we're really glad that, blah, blah, blah. So all that comes on. And then Bray says that, he thanks Owens for having him on the show. And then he's like, hey, we're friends. That's what friends do. And, he's like, we're friends and we got to stick together no matter what brand we're on. Just because you're on Raw and I'm on SmackDown doesn't mean we can't be friends. He's like, I also, wrote you a song about friendship. So then they sing this song. Obviously, it's really bad. All the puppets are involved. Owens is like, really? So then he says that they're not friends after last week. And then Owen tells him to come down to the ring right now. And Bray says he doesn't like bullies. And Kevin Owens also asks him, he's like, what's your relationship with Alexa Bliss? What's going on with that? And then the Fiend, or Bray says that Alexa Bliss's relationship with the Fiend is between the two of them. Like, Bray doesn't know anything. And he says that Owens has no idea what he's gotten himself into. But this Friday, he'll know. and consider this a warning, because that's what friends are for. So then Owen says that if Bray isn't going to come to him, he'll just have to go find him. So he leaves the ring, and as he's walking up the ramp, Aleister Black comes out, hits a black mass, takes him out, and done. If they want to, and I like this, and we said it on Friday, if you want to do like a group, like a cult of people that follow Bray Wyatt, I'd be behind it. Now, I'm not saying put Kevin Owens in it, but if you want to put Aleister Black in it, that will be legit, because Aleister Black fits that gimmick. He can be the main guy to go along with the Fiend, Bray Wyatt. Then you bring in Alexa Bliss. That's the woman. That's the the chick of the group. So it's like, okay, that's badass. Maybe bring in one other guy for the guy who gets beat up, like even though he's bigger than Aleister Black, like the Eric Rowan, the guy who's like, okay, he's just a big dope, whatever. But that would be a legit group. I mean, we'll see where they go. I don't think Kevin Owens would fit the group, even though he's been, touched by the Fiend, you could say. I don't think he would fit. I feel like he needs to be the protagonist to go against them. And then when that feud's over, he goes on and does something else. I don't want to see him in the group, but Aleister Black, definitely. So then after that, we get a backstage interview with Charlie, and she goes to ask him a question, and then he's like, oh, let me cut you off, because I know you're going to ask me about Randy Orton. And he pretty much goes into this long, not real long rant about Randy Orton, but he pretty much just says, like, you're probably going to ask me why I beat him down and why every time I see him, I'm just going to kick his ass. And, yes, I accept your match at Hell in the Cell. This is what it's going to take. He had some cool line about, like, you're not in purgatory, or this isn't purgatory, we're going to be in hell or something like that. So obviously they're putting over the Hell in the Cell gimmick and stuff. So it's really cool. It was just a little like in between, let's just remember this is a really good feud. But I mean, I could have did without this little segment. I mean, we knew he was going to accept the match. You could have accepted the match. There was one more, kind of promo before the main event, and even after the main event, I feel would have been really cool to have him accept it, especially the way it ended. So then we get a video package from Braun. Now he's like, oh, unstoppable. He's legit. I think it was like Burger King sponsor in the corner or some bullshit. So it's like, okay, you want to look like Braun, eat Burger King. And then after they show that little thing, it's like, okay, who cares? Then we get Braun Strowman versus Keith Lucius Lee. And when they had this match, because earlier, you saw Keith Lee and he was like, okay, like I accept. Adam Pearce went up to him. He's like, yep. He's like, sign me up. But I mean, this was good for the fact that, there's a little bit of history and they've been teasing it, the Royal Rumble and everything. And these two guys are just like two big, hosses just going at it. So that's just really appealing just to, for visually. But, what were you going to do? Were you going to have Braun Strowman lose? No. Were you going to have Keith Lee lose? That's more likely, but still no. I mean, these guys they fought for two minutes, maybe. They went to the outside, 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, 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 10, you're done. Braun Strowman's like, are you kidding me? This is bullshit. He, slams Keith Lee through the barricade. They kind of get pulled apart. It's like, okay, Keith Lee's pissed off now. They start fighting. He throws him into the LED board on the ramp. Then he's like kind of tackles him, almost like spears him, but like, he goes with him and tackles him right off the ramp into like a production crate, obviously pad and everything. So maybe we're going to see a continuation of this feud. Don't be surprised if Friday these two are drafted to the same brand and we see this feud continuing, because, Keith Lee, they don't really know what to do with him. See, I would put Keith Lee over in that feud, and then whoever comes out on top for Hell in a Cell, Keith Lee needs to challenge. But I don't know if they have that much, push. Like, let's really push Keith Lee for the title picture, but we'll see. And then we get another vignette for Bianca Belair. She's it's like now she's the smartest. So it's her and a bunch of other women. They're doing like a trivia contest. She's answering everything right away. She's like, well, you guys can answer too. You don't need to save them, me answer them all. And she keeps hitting the buzzer like right before the question's even over. So it's like, how the hell can you answer? So again, just kind of putting her over because, she's one of them where it's like, okay, we don't really know what to do, but the draft is coming up. So once we reshuffle the board, that can be an easy, like, oh yeah, now you can feud against so-and-so and do whatever. But, I don't mind these vignettes for now. I think if we see them, in a week and a half, 2 weeks, then I'll be like, okay, like we got to switch it up here a little bit. But now we see, again, part 2, everybody's favorite segments, 24/7 championship. We see Drew Gulak, he's hiding in a trash can. And then Truth pops out, and then they pretty much just start fighting. And then he gets pushed over. He knocks over a trash can. And then Tozawa's in the other one. And then R-Truth was in like a really big, like where you dump the trash cans into before you take them to like a dumpster or something. So then all of them get kind of thrown in there, and they start beating each other up. You really don't see anything. I didn't hear somebody yell count. There was nothing. The ref just starts slapping the side of this bin. 1, 2, 3, and they're like, who won? Who is it? R-Truth pops up, jumps out, runs away. 42-time champion. He has the most championships, held in WWE history. So R-Truth is the greatest of all time. Move over, Ric Flair. So then back to the ring, we see Shelton Benjamin, Bobby Lashley, and they're getting ready for their match. And then MVP, they pretty much say that the Hurt Business has an official announcement, and he says that Ricochet, Apollo, and Ali haven't won the fight, and he reminds them that the only reason that they won last week was due to Retribution distracting them. MVP calls T-Bar out, and he says that the Hurt Business is what nightmares are made of. So then the faces come out. Ali says that his team last week won because he pushed back. And then Ricochet takes the mic and he says that, none of the trio are joining the Hurt Business. And he's like, it's a pass, ha ha. Like, he's like, oh, like, am I going to join you? And he's like, well, it's a pass, ha ha. And they're all like hamming it up. And, mostly it was Apollo and Ricochet were hamming it up. Ali's kind of like, laughing, but he's like, okay, like, can we at least be legit here a little bit? But, then they go to the ring and, we get the match underway. But the match, it was just Shelton and Lashley versus Ricochet and Apollo. So MVP and Ali were just there at ringside, just watching this thing go down. And, he was really pissed, MVP, at Ricochet. So he's like, ref, you're going to start the match as soon as I leave the ring. And he looked at his boys and he's like, I want you to definitely put some hurt on him. So that when this match started, they did just what he said. They started really beating the shit out of Ricochet. But Ricochet, he, even though the character is kind of done for me, and, the change of his, his gimmick and the music is pretty much gone and everything about him, he lost everything that made him special. He's still legit in the ring. So, he was doing good in this match. And all four of these guys are fantastic. And, but like I said, they dominated Ricochet, really isolated him. He eventually was able to make the hot tag to Apollo. But what do you think? Apollo came in, got his offense going. But, Lashley, huge choke slam, the Nelson lock, done. So, what does he call it? Whatever he calls it, the full Nelson. Yeah, he puts it on and done. So, then backstage after that, we get Murphy and Aaliyah, and they're together. And it's, he's pretty much saying to her, hey, I have 10 minutes left before I have to go out and apologize to Seth. And then, but I'm going to see if he'll apologize to you instead. And then she's like, are you really going to apologize to him? She's like, think about everything he did to us, to your family, how he treats you. She's like, no, he's bullshit. Murphy's like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. He is bullshit. So then back live, we get the Hurt Business. And then, they're backstage and Ali comes up. And then he calls out these guys. He's like, MVP, he's like, I want you later tonight. And he's like, and you know what? You can bring your boys with you. Because after I kick your ass, he's like, I'm going to, start with you and finish with you. And Shelton is just like laughing, like, all right, kid, like, whatever. And then Lashley looks like he's going to rip his head off. And MVP's like, no, let him go. Let him go. He's like, that's cute. He's like, but don't worry. Like, you boys are coming with me. We're going to honor his demands. So then we go to the ring and we see Seth. He's waiting for Buddy Murphy. And now Murphy comes out. And then Seth is like, dude, like, okay, you had plenty of time to think about it. Let's just, let me hear you apologize. It'll be water under the bridge. We can put this behind us and we can go home. And then he tells Murphy, he's just like, hey, don't stand in the way, of greatness, of the greater good. And, he's like, come on, just apologize. And Murphy's not really saying anything. He's just, and then he grabs him and then he's like pissed off and he grabs him by the beard and he's like, apologize. He's like, what's wrong with you? And he's like yelling at him and it's like, what the hell? And he's like, then he, throws him down and then he's like, they just start fighting and he just start brawling all over the place. And then he goes out, he grabs the kendo stick and he really starts wailing on Seth. And then Seth is like, no, please. Like, don't hit me. I'm sorry. Don't do it. Murphy, please. And then Murphy's kind of hesitant. Rollins gets up. He grabs a kendo stick. Then he starts breaking this thing over Murphy's back, really kicking his ass. So then he goes in. He grabs the chair. And then by the time he grabs the chair, because he pretty, like I said, he like bent and busted the kendo stick. And when he gets in the ring with the chair, Ali is out there. And she's over Murphy. She's like, no, stop. Like, you're bullshit. Like, he's done. Just let him go. And then, the whole Mysterio family comes out. So then, Seth Rollins is like, well, screw this. He throws the chair down. He retreats. And then, they're just, they're kind of just looking at, Aaliyah and Dom. Like I said, they're all out there and they're just like talking, making sure, everybody's all right. And this was good. I like the, especially the animosity between Seth and Murphy. At this thing, Murphy, he exploded on Seth. Like I said, the kettle was reaching its boiling point. It happened and, it was done. So then, Seth and, he retreated from the family and everything. So we're going to see next week what they're going to do. Again, I think it's too soon to do Hell in a Cell, at least that type of matchup. If they want to do just a match at that pay-per-view, I'd be fine with it. But, I really think you could build this feud a little bit. Not saying it needs to be like an 18-week feud, but you could definitely build it up a little bit and, have a decent blow-off. So then backstage, we see Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, and they're getting ready to defend their tag titles. And then that's the match we get coming back from the commercial break. And it's a shame because I really wanted to see the Riot Squad win this, but I guess with the draft coming up and this and that, and, they don't really want to job out. And not saying that losing to the Riot Squad would be jobbing out, but, I guess I am saying it in this case because they didn't want Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax to lose. But I feel like this match, they could have gave longer time. You could have took away another, like that other women's match and then just gave more time to this one. But, and I did go through a commercial break, so they did give it a little bit of time, but it was pretty much, Ruby Riott was just getting her ass kicked by Shayna Baszler, but she wouldn't back down. She's like, no, I want more. Like, she wasn't scared of her. And then Liv was trying to make the hot tag, and she does. And then Liv gets some good offense in, but then she tags in Ruby right away. And then it's like, even commentary said, it's like, well, Ruby was just getting her ass kicked for how long? Like, I understand, keep the fresh person in, but that's something you do like in the beginning of the match. Liv should really still be in there. And then, pretty much Shane is in there. Again, she hits that huge knee. She goes for the Kirifuda clutch. She gets it in. And then Liv tries to break it up, but Nia Jax just like tackles her in the corner, holds her on her shoulder, holds her that she can't break the pin. And then, of course, Ruby has to tap out. So no new tag champs. It was a good match. I wish it, again, would have went a little longer, would have maybe had a different outcome, different winner. But, hey, maybe this feud will continue. We'll see. Or at least I hope they do something with the Riot Squad because they're actually one of, if not the only, tag team they have left for the women, like official tag team. So we'll see. So then backstage, we get the Street Profits, and they condemn, Orton for everything he did last week. And then McIntyre shows up, and he's like, we're going to kick the shit out of Randy Orton. Let's do this. So, again, he could have accepted the Hell in the Cell thing here. Decent promo by the Street Profits. The only thing I really popped for in their promos, and they're like, the Street Profits are up, and we want the smoke. Because, of course, they have to put over the legends and everything. And it's like, okay, whatever. But, 6-man tag main event. And then we get MVP versus Mustafa Ali. And this was good for the ending. So let's go through this thing. So MVP, he takes control early, and then he starts kind of working him over. Then Ali, gets the offense in. He pretty much knocks MVP to the outside, and then MVP's getting flustered at this point. So then he's like, he looks at his boys, Lashley, Shelton. They get in the ring with him. So then it's 3-on-1. And then, just Ali's looking around like, shit, like, what am I going to do here? And then, the Thunderdome, everything goes dark. Retribution pops up. And then, on all like the Thunderdome screens, whatever you want to call it. And then you see Retribution. They're there at the ramp. They start circling the ring. They look at Ali. They're like, hey, man, you with us? Like, it's 4 against all these guys. Like, we got to put our shit behind us and team up. So they're all squaring off looking at these guys. And then Ali rolls out of the ring. He gets right up to T-Bar and Mace, looks right in their face. And then he kind of nods, smiles, turns around. And then he points and he's like, get him. And they're like, and it's like, what? So Ali, he's pretty much leading Retribution because they beat the shit out of the Hurt Business. They stand in the ring. They stand tall. All the, you have T-Bar, Mace. What the hell's the other one? Whoever the other one is. And then, all the little cronies, the little Dark Order guys, the little Jean Pauls in their hoodies. They all are in the ring there. And Ali, he does the hand, the hand, so he does the hand, and, it's cool. And I hope that they, when we hear from him next, whether it's on SmackDown, if he gets drafted there, or if they said Raw is, our Retribution is exclusive to Raw, next Raw, I want to hear the hacker thing. How he's like, I saw how people were bullshit, how, it almost like Saw, for those who've seen the movie Saw, how it's like, you people take everything for granted, you don't appreciate shit, like you're bullshit. Now this is the retribution you must face. He was the hacker, I think, on SmackDown. Obviously, they had the symbol and everything, so it was probably him. They didn't go anywhere with that. That kind of just like, fell on, nothing. It just, died out. So that would be cool to retouch on that, use it for this, and it makes sense. I think so. This was really good. This is definitely the biggest pop for me for the whole night because I love Mustafa Ali. You want to do something legit with him. Here it is. And I think if you keep adding to Retribution, you can make it something where it's like, okay, this is at least decent. We get past the goofy mask. We get past the whatever. Because now if they put Ali in a bullshit goofy mask next week, then I'm sorry, Ali, but done. But, if he looks the way he does, and they continue this forward, I think this will be good. So then we get the, time for the main event. Here it is, folks. Dolph Ziggler, Robert Roode, and Randy Orton versus the Street Profits and Drew McIntyre. And this thing went pretty much how you would think this match would go. The heels, were kind of just mostly dominated by, Drew McIntyre. He's legit. Obviously, Ziggler, they have the history. Ziggler's a bump machine. He gets his ass kicked. Bobby Roode or Robert Roode, whatever you want to call him, he looked way more legit last week, I think, than this week. And, Randy Orton looked good. The only thing I really didn't like is how towards the end of the thing when Randy Orton, he sold for who it was Angelo Dawkins, when Angelo Dawkins countered the RKO, then he hit like the big like sky high or whatever you want to call it, and then Montez Ford hit the from the heavens, and that pretty much would have pinned Randy Orton if the pin wasn't broken up. So I'm like, I wish Orton would have kicked out of that on his own, just because it's Randy Orton. Have him be a little bit more legit. There's guys like that, like Randy Orton, Drew, Roman, Lesnar. There's guys who just kick out of that stuff just because they're legit. So, I mean, that was a little bit like, okay, they're really putting the Street Profits over. So, I mean, I guess that's good. But it's like, this is Randy Orton here. So then, of course, McIntyre, and everything breaks down then. They start beating up McIntyre. He starts taking these guys out. Claymore kick to the two jobbers. And I hate saying that about Ziggler and Roode, but Claymore kicks to the two jobbers. And then once Claymore kicks Roode, he nips up. And as soon as he nips up, Randy Orton's still in the ring because he's the legal man. RKO, 1, 2, 3. And, the heels win this match. So this was good. And this is where I would have had, Drew been like choking, like, he's like, I accept Hell in a Cell, did something like that. Cause that would have been, it's like, okay, he got pinned here. Maybe he's not going to accept the Hell in a Cell because he got pinned here. He doesn't need to accept, he's beaten Randy. So what does he need to accept this match for? But to get pinned here and still accept it, then that it's not about the title anymore. It's about kicking Randy Orton's ass, hopefully once and for all. So, I mean, that's where I would have had. I think it would have had a little bit more like, that like a little bit more legitness in my opinion if you would have did it there. But I mean, it was still good. I think it was the right winners. And I believe on Raw Talk, Ziggler and Roode called out the Street Profits, and they said that they're going to be, the new tag champs and this and that. So if they do that feud, and you want to like kind of, it was supposed to be, I can't even talk here. Randy Orton and FTR are, the revival was supposed to be a stable, and these guys are all supposed to have gold and look legit. If you want to do that with Ziggler and Roode and Randy Orton, give Randy the WWE Championship and those other two guys the Raw Tag Team Championships, I'm all for it. So we'll see what they do. It's definitely interesting with the draft coming up. a lot of these guys, you can tell who's not going to change. Retribution's not going to change. Randy Orton's probably not going to go anywhere. Neither's Drew. None of these guys who are in major feuds, unless they want to do like the thing where, oh, Randy Orton wins and then, oh, I guess that means we have to trade Roman to Monday Night Raw or something, if Randy would get drafted to SmackDown, let's say. So I really don't know what they're going to do. It's definitely exciting. Adds a lot more intrigue to the bullshit that is SmackDown Live. So we'll see. But guys, thank you so much for watching. That was the Monday Night Raw review. Click like, comment, be like, John Paul, I really like this segment. I don't know what you mean. That 6-woman tag, to start the show was legit. I'll be like, listen, I'm sorry. I don't know what you were watching, but it clearly wasn't the same program I was. But no, please comment, like, subscribe, and, follow us on all the social media outlets. We have Rope Break on Facebook, The Original Rope Break on Instagram, The OG Rope Break on Twitter, alleverythingentertainment.com. Check them out. Legit stuff. We always put them over, and it's for good reason. They're a legit website. You have movies, all kinds of sports, everything going on. Check them out. And then, of course, you can follow us right here for the #1 podcast in the YouTube wrestling community, The Original Rope Break. So, guys, thank you so much. And, of course, we will see you next time for AEW Dynamite review.